بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ومن تمسك بسنته إلى يوم الدين ثم أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته يا مرحبا بكم. We welcome you to another episode of Everyday Sunnah. In today's episode, bithnillahi ta'ala, we want to say a very short piece of advice to everyone that bithnillahi ta'ala, by the end of this episode, you will come to understand fully what is intended by it. And that is, don't be like the kid that walks home. Okay? Where are we going with this? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentions in His noble book, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا لِمَا تَقُولُونَ مَا لَا تَفْعَلُونَ كَبُرَ مَقْتًا عِنْدَ اللَّهِ كبر مقتا عند الله أن تقولوا ما لا تفعلون. Allah Ta'ala, He says what translated means. O you who believe, why do you say that which you don't do? Most hateful with Allah is that you say that which you don't do. Most hateful with Allah is that you say that which you don't do. Naam. Don't be like the kid that walks home. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, elsewhere in His noble book, He says, أَتَأْمُرُونَ النَّاسَ بِالْبِرِّ وَتَنْسَوْنَ أَنفُسَكُمْ وَأَنْتُمْ تَتْلُونَ الْكِتَابِ أَفَلَا تَعْقِلُونَ. Allah Ta'ala, He says, do you command the people with doing good while you forget yourselves and you're reading the book? Do you not, or would you not then use your intellect? Do you command mankind with good, but you forget yourself? Will you not then therefore use your intellect? The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said in a hadith, what means al-alimu alladhi, that the scholar in which la ya'mal bi'ilmih, who does not live in accordance to his knowledge, kal musbah, is like a lantern, يضيء للناس ويحرق نفسه أو كما قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. That the scholar who does not live in accordance to what he knows, then he is like a lantern. He gives out light. He gives out light to the people, for the people, and then what? While destroying himself. So don't be like the kid that walks home. It is incumbent, it is a must that we live in accordance to what we know, because the only knowledge that we're going to benefit from is knowledge that is implemented. Now, if you do not implement your knowledge, then you're not going to benefit from it. So don't be like the kid that walks home. It is a must that we look at what we know and that we begin to implement what we know, bithnillahi ta'ala. Because the percentage of knowledge in which you have, do you live in accordance to it? How much of the percentage of your knowledge do you live in accordance to? How many things do you do that you know you should not do? How many things that you stay away from doing, you know you should be doing it? How much of our knowledge are we implementing? What's the percentage? I want you, everyone, to look at themselves and to gaze themselves and to, what's the word I'm looking for? To examine themselves, right? Test themselves. Put themselves to scrutiny as relates to this. How much of the knowledge are you implementing that you know? Undoubtedly, we all are in need of learning, no question. But we are in need of implementing what we know, because what we know is either going to be a proof for us or a proof against us. As the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, "Wal Qur'an hujjatun laka aw alayk," and the Qur'an is either a proof for you or against you. Naam, it's either a proof for you or a proof against you. So, what are we doing with the knowledge in which we have? Abdullah bin Mas'ud radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, he said, ta'allamu, ta'allamu. He said, learn, learn. Naam. فَإِذَا عَلِمْتُمْ فَاعْمَلُوا. And once you have learned, then act in accordance to. Learn, learn. And once you have learned, once you have acquired knowledge, then act in accordance to the knowledge. Because from those things in which the individual, he will not move on the day of judgment before he is asked about it, from them is what? Is knowledge. وماذا علم في يعني excuse me أي نعم فماذا عمل فيما علم. What did you do with what you knew? نعم فماذا عمل فيما علم or علم. نعم. What did you do with what you knew? We're going to be asked about that on the day of judgment. Not going to move. The feet of the abd, they will not move on the day of judgment until they're asked about that. Naam. وَمَاذَا عَمِلَ فِي مَا عَلِمَ. What did you do with that which you knew? So this is something you can ask yourself right now. Naam. What are you doing with what you know? That which you have learned. What are you doing with it? Don't be like the kid that walks home. It is vital importance that we benefit from what we know. The only way we could benefit from what we know is that we act in accordance to it. Abu Hurairah radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, he brought forth a very good example. He says, وَمَثِلُ عِلْمٍ لَا يُعْمَلُ بِهِ, that the similitude of knowledge in which is not acted upon, كَمِثْلِ كَنْزٍ, is like a treasure. It's like a treasure. نعم. لا ينفق منه في سبيل الله عز وجل. It's like a treasure that an individual, he does not spend from it fi sabilillah. So if you have all that money, but you're not spending it fi sabilillah, then what's the benefit? How's it going to help you? Now, you're not spending it fi sabilillah. What's going to be waiting for you yawmul qiyamah because of that treasure? So you're like an individual who has millions, but you're stingy. You don't want to spend fi sabilillah. So what good are your millions? What are your millions doing for you? If your millions are not helping you on the day of judgment, then what's it doing for you? And this is a concept that I want everybody really to think about. If anything is not going to benefit you on the day of judgment, then it should be of no importance to you. If it's not going to help you day of judgment, then what's the point? Now, it's all about preparing ourselves to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So don't be like the kid that walks home. Now, don't do that. Don't do that. One of the Salaf, he mentioned, he says, خَيْرُ الْعِلْمِ مَا نَفَعَ. He says the best knowledge is the knowledge that benefits. If you're not going to act in accordance to your knowledge, then your knowledge is not going to benefit you. That makes sense? Now, if you don't act in accordance to your knowledge is not going to benefit you. The only knowledge that benefits you is the knowledge that you act in accordance to. So don't be like the kid that walks home. One of the Salaf, he mentioned, he says, العلم منافق في قوله وعلم المؤمن في فعله أو في عمله. That the knowledge of the hypocrite is in his speech. علم منافق في قوله. The knowledge of the hypocrite is in his speech. And the knowledge of the believer is in his actions. Now, the knowledge of the believer is in his actions. So don't be like the kid that walks home. What does that mean? I keep repeating the statement. Don't be like the kid that walks home. It's based upon a saying, an example you can say. And that is that if a kid were to go out to a field, be brought to an empty lot, an empty parking lot, got his bike, brought it to an empty parking lot, the parent or whomsoever, they taught the child how to ride the bike. The child learned how to ride a bike. He went to the field, not knowing how to ride the bike, and then he learned how to ride the bike. And then he jumped over the speed bumps, right? Maybe he's a prodigy riding a bike. Well, I don't know. But he went to the field and he learned how to ride a bike. And then after learning how to ride a bike, what does he do? He walks home. He takes the bike and he walks the bike home. What benefit would it be now? All that practice, all that time he spent into learning to ride a bike just to walk the bike home. So don't be like the kid that walks home. If you want to benefit from your knowledge, then you have to implement that knowledge. And any knowledge that you're not implementing, then it is a knowledge that it does not benefit you. But if anything, is going to be a proof and evidence against you. So like Abdullah bin Mas'ud, he mentions, and like he said, because I don't want a person to say, okay, well then therefore I'm not going to learn. It's better to be stupid, right? Ignorance is bliss, right? No. Because you still got to live life. You still got to live life. And anything that you do in this world, you have to know what is the proper ruling in order to do it properly. Now, knowledge is before statements and actions. So you still have to learn what to do and how to do it. You're not excused from that. Now, if anything, if you knew you should have learned something and you didn't take the time and put forth the effort to learn it, then you end up doing it wrong, then you're still to blame. Because you knew you should have learned, but you didn't learn. You're still to blame. So you still got to learn. Now, there's no way around it. Got to learn. So like Abdullah Mas'udi said, ta'allamu, ta'allamu. Learn. فَإِذَا عَلِمْتُمْ فَاعْمَلُوا. Once you have learned, then act in accordance to. That's the way of the believer. We learn. We seek knowledge, as the Prophet ﷺ commanded us to do. He said, طَلَبُ الْعِلْمِ فَرِيضَةٌ عَلَى كُلِّ Muslim. Seeking knowledge is obligatory upon every Muslim. So we seek knowledge, we seek ilm. And once we have acquired, then we act in accordance to what we know. Bithnillahi ta'ala. This is the knowledge that's going to benefit you. Nothing else from knowledge is going to benefit you except that knowledge that you implement. Now, just like knowing how to make a sandwich is not going to make the sandwich. You have to put forth the effort and then make the sandwich. Now, knowing how to eat the sandwich but then not taking a bite is not going to cause the sandwich to be devoured. But you have to what? You have to pick it up, you have to bite it, you have to chew it, swallow it to the end of it. If not, then you can't complain that you're hungry, but you know how to make a sandwich. You have to implement that knowledge bithnillahi ta'ala. So again, don't be like the kid that walks home. Ila liqa. Istawdirukum Allah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.